Welcome to Mighty Married Moms. Join us at our kitchen table twice a week as the Mighty Married Moms, Debbie, Linda, Wendy, invite spectacular guests to weigh in on staying sexy, vibrant, and healthy, building marriages with soul-satisfying connection, raising happy, healthy, successful kids. Conversations with Mighty Married Moms will bring you closer to the life you really want. Episode 27.
Good morning. Hi, everybody. We're here today with Dr. Corey Allan, who's a marriage and family therapist and the founder of Simple Marriage, which is an online site aimed at helping marriages not only survive, but to actually thrive. He hosts a weekly show talking about hot, great married sex and can be found on Sexy Married Radio. He's got two websites, simplemarriage.net and sexymarriageradio.com. And Dr. Allan, thank you very much for joining us today on Mighty Married Moms.
Thanks for having me. This is fun.
Yeah. As I was mentioning, you and I kind of know each other from time gone by, where we share a passion for ensuring that married life is all that it could be and more. So I'm really excited that you agreed to be with us today. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. One of the things that strikes me about your work is that you talk about the fact that marriage is really not there for happily ever after or to make us happy in a romantic notion, but you actually say that marriage is there to grow us up. Can you unpack that a little bit for us?
How much time we got?
Yeah, right.
No, I think the main thing that a lot of couples struggle with, and a lot of things that trip up couples, at least that I see as a marriage family therapist, and then the message I try to get across on Simple Marriage, is that when we get into married life, nothing prepares us for marriage but marriage. So it's that idea of, I have an idea of what I'm going into, but I have no clue what it really is. And so a lot of what's proposed out there, I guess you could say, with Hollywood and Hallmark, is this: it's going to be a bed of roses, it's going to be you complete me, it's going to be lovey-dovey, and we'll make up every night, and and it's just not that. Married life is so different. And so if you can dispel the myth that we're in this for happily ever after, because it's happy may be there, and if you view it right, I think it is there, but I really believe most of what marriage is designed for is just to help us be better, just to help challenge us to refine ourselves, to smooth the rough edges, that it's actually a process, that just because I live with somebody else, I can't hide those parts of me, and they're going to see all of me, and even if I try to keep it hidden, they're going to point it out just because they see me, they know me, and if I can see it as that, it changes what I do in the relationship rather than, oh, there's something wrong, there's something broken, I need to find a different relationship. And then you just get into you're hopping relationships all the time, and you're never really getting to the core of what we can become as people.
I love what you said about how marriage is a process. Mm-hmm. People think of it as an event, all of a sudden now we're married. Or
yeah.
There's also the people who are living together, and even that can be an event too. They make that decision. Okay, now we're going to move in together. But I love the idea that it's a process. Can you kind of explain for us a little bit what's the timeline for that process? Are there things that, right. I know there are things that are kind of symptomatic or particular to that timeline. If you could just share that a little bit with us.
Well, I think that the timeline for the process is it's lifelong. Because I think every single person, take for example, being a mom. I'm not a mom, so I have no firsthand knowledge of this, but I'm married to one, and I'm a father, so it's similar, but I'm a different father than I was when I first started.
Yeah, sure.
And so it's a process of, we learn from experience, we learn from other people, the wisdom, just the chances to try things out, and you realize, oh, that didn't work. So I think marriage is the same way, in that if I see that the relationship that I have with my wife, in my instance, is really there to help me just become a better guy, a better husband, a better father, a better man, a better human, then all of a sudden it can change the things that she makes me really furious about. All of a sudden, I'm like, wait, what if that's actually a thing that's helping me become more patient, or helping me, be more humble, or helping me be more assertive? It just changes how everything goes on. And so I think that if you look at all the seasons of life, especially a married couple would follow if they're together for a long time, then you got different episodes every time. And, each new season presents a whole, as soon as you get it down as a mom or as a dad, your kid changes. They go to school and
right. Or you have a second one.
Well, yeah.
and it changes the whole apple cart, right?
Or puberty strikes, heaven forbid. And yeah, I mean, so it's just, the whole dynamic changes, and now I have to relearn myself in the process of what's going on, because what I've read or know and what I used when they were toddlers doesn't necessarily work.
Right. I heard, I don't know if you're familiar with a guy named Nicky Gumbel, but I heard him mention years ago in talking about marriage that he said, a lot of people view marriage as having a book about, in his case, his wife's name was Pippa. Mm-hmm. Pippa. And he said, if I have a book about Pippa, I can say, oh, she's an athlete, she's a great cook, she is a wonderful mom, she's got blonde hair, all these different things. He said, but when you're married to somebody, he said, you don't need a book, you're living in that. You're living in that spot. And that how different that is than, you're living in the movie, you're living in the book, if you will. So, but a lot of people kind of say it's external to them, it's external to their relationship.
Right, and I add to that in that a lot of people come to see me, like in my practice that I have, where I see couples. They're coming in because they want to fix the relationship. They want to work on the relationship, like it's an external thing, like it's the third leg of a three-legged stool. To me, that's backwards. The relationship works on you more than you work on it. And if I can view it that way, I change what I do. All of a sudden now I'm empowered to realize, hey, okay, there's something going on here that it changes me, that it's not my spouse's fault. I contribute to this too. And so what am I doing to bring about the frustration? What am I doing to bring about the problems? And if I'm willing to take the courageous step of acknowledging that, all of a sudden now I've just taken a tremendous step forward in changing my relationship for the better.
You bring up a good point. What are some of the issues that people come to you for in their counseling? What are some of the issues that they're struggling with?
Well, for my practice, a lot of what I've seen, for some reason in my area, and I love this fact, I've started to become the last-ditch counselor guy. That I get couples that have already filed their paperwork for divorce.
Wow.
And they'll come and we want to give one last shot because I don't want to just leave this with regret. And so I get a lot of really hard cases like that where it's like, wow, okay. And lots of them turn it around. Not all of them do. I mean, because sometimes you're too far gone and one person's not vested anymore. But the main thing I see is, you get people that have discovered an affair. That's one of the major ones, whether it's emotional or physical or both. I'd
love to hear the difference between the two, but go ahead.
Okay. And then just the chronic issues, where you just never have really clicked, and you fight over this, same thing over and over and over, and finally a couple just reaches a point of, we need help. So, I mean, those are the main things that I see, just because those are the people that they're vested enough. They're like, I'm not, this is an important enough relationship. Let's stick with it. I value help. And so they'll reach out for help. Unfortunately, lots of people wait too long before they reach out for help. I mean, research continues to show a couple will wait 6 years before they reach out for help after a problem has already become a problem.
Wow.
So it's
Can
one of those.
Imagine finding a lump on your breast and waiting 6 years.
I would not wait 6 years as a guy for sure, just because I know, whoa, hey, that's not supposed to be there. But
a rash.
Yep. No, I get it.
Yeah.
But we treat relationships different. We had this whole, I can willpower my way into a better relationship. I could just I could just settle. I can tolerate this. At least I got this out of it.
Or it shouldn't have to be this much work, and we should just be able to be fine and happy
Right. So it's there's that's why I started Simple Marriage, actually, is because I wanted to try to figure out how to reach people before a problem becomes a problem. So I wanted to at least get a message out there that is pro-marriage, pro-relationship, trying to really offer good service and help to people around the globe, but more importantly, just to get help before there's a real issue, because most people will turn to a book before they'll call a therapist. So now, in today's day and age, people will turn to the blogs before they call a therapist. So
Right.
hopefully there's good information that really does help.
Yeah. Oh, I think so. I think
Thanks.
this is great. I really do. I know, Linda, you were asking me about the app stuff before. He was saying he was interested in what he's doing with apps.
Yeah. Yeah. We have apps to use to help you better your relationships or identify problems or try to work through them. And,
yeah. And there's all kinds of different companies and people trying to get stuff started to really reach people with couples, with couples information and really try to get to that blend of technology that people are already using and have it applied to their relationship. And it's a tough one. I haven't created any apps. I just kind of have aggregated a bunch of stuff that people have sent me and said, hey, here's some places to look that could be helpful. But we might as well use technology because everybody's using it.
Everybody's using it, particularly the younger generation. For those of us who have kids growing up into young adults, that's where it's at, for sure.
Right. I know.
Do you find any, I think something that I've thought about, in the olden days, people didn't get divorced, but nowadays more and more people get, or so the perception is, they get divorced. And part of that is because we just simply are living longer. So people are married for as long as people used to live, so people have been married 40, 50 years. Do you talk to couples about that? Like, strategies and helping you get through, like you said before, all those, kids grow up, they hit puberty, there's milestones, right, that you have to hit. And certainly as you get older, it's true. And it makes sense to me what you're saying is the more you focus on being a better you through all the milestones through your life, how can you not be a great partner? But if you focus on your partner being better or helping you through those milestones, it's not the right focus.
Right. And that's interesting because statistically speaking, the second highest rate of divorce is after 18 to 20 years of marriage. And so that's when the kids are gone.
Right.
And so all of a sudden you reintroduce to your spouse and you don't like them anymore because you haven't really done anything with them for 18 years. So, but I think that what you're talking about, it does contribute, the sense that we do live longer. So people see, when they're in their 50s and 60s and 70s, they're like, I still got a lot of life left. I don't know if I want to tolerate what I'm tolerating now. And so they move on. But I still think if you can challenge that view and realize, wait, nothing has really changed in the relationship. Things have changed in you because of the relationship. So if you're still willing to confront what you do to, contribute to what's going on, because relationships are co-created. So it does change and hopefully give people some motivation to stick with it. Maybe it doesn't. I mean, I tell couples I work with on my practice that, and even if I'm interacting with them online and through some coaching or just email back and forth, that I don't work to save marriages and I don't work to end marriages. I work to help people be better people. And because ultimately people have to choose what they want. When a therapist steps in and says, you guys need to be divorced, I think they've overstepped their bounds. I think that's putting their values on somebody else's situation that they don't know the whole story of. And I could see where I could say I would not tolerate that and would move on, but I'm not going to say that to a client because it's amazing what people are capable of. And so I want to just encourage people to just be better. And then if you're better, you can make better choices.
Yeah.
Well, so go back just for a second to that 18 to 20 time period. I've seen that in a number of cases. And, it's when they've dropped off their last kid at college and they're driving home and one drops the bomb and says, okay, now that it's just you and me, I'm not really interested in this anymore.
Right.
Is there something that you would recommend couples do both in preparation for that impending event of the empty nest and then also once they're first in it? How do they get through that transition?
Well, I think, let me start with the preparation because I think that's the best. Preventative measures are always cheaper and more effective than after the fact. That's just a fact. It's always better to go for enrichment things than it is to pay for help when there's major issues. So to me, it comes down to when kids are a part of the relationship, there still has to be a hierarchy of the marriage is primary. and the kids are secondary. And in our world that's child-centric, that I know that goes against the flow. And there was even a lady that made that comment on Oprah a couple years ago that got ripped up.
Yep.
But it's still true that the kids are not the primary focus of the marriage, of the family. I mean, they play a role as kids. That's their job. They're not a pseudo parent or a pseudo spouse to get emotional needs from. So that if you can keep that hierarchy in place to where you model to your kids, like I model to my kids that their mom is primary importance to me. I love them to death, but I love her more, quote unquote, just because she was here before them and she will be here after them. And I want to make sure that is very, very clear. So we have times where we go on dates, we get away for weekends, we close our door when they're around, and they just do not come in. There's nothing major crazy going on in our room. It's our time. Just leave us alone. And I think if you can kind of model that, it lets kids just relax and be kids. They're not parentified then. They don't have to take care of mom and dad's ego or emotional stability or love or nurturing or any of that. They can just be kids and they can live their life. So if you set it up like that, it's a little bit easier to reestablish once they're gone, because then it's this whole, we've already had this thread all the way through.
Right.
If you haven't set it up like that and your kids are about to leave, I would say rather than chucking it right away, give it some time and see what that new season of life is like. Because I had a father tell me one time when I was first graduated undergrad, and I was in the ministry at the time, and he made a comment that I loved, that he said after they take their daughter was a sophomore in high school at the time, and they said, in 3 years after we drop her off, when we get back, I'm going to walk across the living room floor, I'm going to shake my wife's hands, and I'm going to court her all over again.
Oh.
And it's like, I love that, because it's like now I got a chance just to go after her like I did long ago. And I think if we can kind of have a chance to do a little bit of a reset and just give it time and don't do a real quick, okay, it's gone. Maybe now all of a sudden some of what's really been going on between you can really be addressed, and you can start to create something that's fantastic, because you don't have the major stressors of kids right there at your legs all the time. Kids are still going to be there because college, they're going to be calling for money and need laundry done. And
you don't stop being a parent just because they moved to the dorm.
Not at all. So there's still that, but that allows you also the possibility of transitioning your relationship with your kid from parent to child to almost a little more peer. You're still their parent, but also they're kind of getting their own life, and you're just kind of being supportive and doing more background boundary kind of stuff. It's just kind of helping, but they're making their own decisions much more. So I think it's all a process, and it fits to every relationship.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more about the child-centric society that we've developed, and it just feels so detrimental to me in so many ways. I mean, we've already discussed the way that it impacts marriages, and it's, all of a sudden this person's a new person to you and you're kind of bored, and maybe the woman at work has much more of an appeal, or the guy down the street. So that aside, but what does it do for human beings who are now out in the real world and their boss doesn't think of them as the most important person on the planet? They're not interested in making them a grilled cheese every 5 minutes when they ask for one or whatever. So I don't think it serves in any realm. I don't think it serves myself. But
yeah, I mean, there's some books out there that I've come across that kind of talk some about that, the whole concept of snowplow parenting, helicopter parenting, which is just they're both kind of the same, where you're not allowing a kid to really struggle and have to deal with life on life terms. So I came across a couple of years ago, there was some research, and I don't remember what company it was, but they would hire, when they were hiring kids out of college, they would look at their upbringing and their schooling and kind of get an idea. They had a instrument that they'd make kids take, and they gave an idea of what kind of family they were raised in. And the kids that didn't have to struggle, they wouldn't hire, because they don't know how to problem solve. They don't know how to deal with life. And so, yeah, it does. There is a fallout of not allowing a kid to truly have a chance to fail at things, to truly have a chance to struggle with things. I like to think of it, when your kids are young, those are when the consequences are relatively inexpensive if they fail at something, So let them
well,
pay
yeah,
it.
you put things in those economic terms. It's really effective. It's cheaper to pay for, you know, a little bit of enrichment weekend away than it is to pay for
Sure.
extended. What were you saying? Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, I was just going to jump over to, I have 2 boys and they're teenagers, and something that's been actually wonderful to see, because my husband and I have not quite articulated the way that you're articulating it, but we've always made it, you know, we are a couple, we're married, we love each other. My husband will say, "That's my wife you're talking about." If they're
I love that. I love that phrase.
You know,
and for boys.
Yeah, and now I see them. Well, my oldest, he's 16, with a girlfriend, and it's really nice to see the modeling that has happened from watching parents and the way that he's so sweetly affectionate to his girlfriend and the way he treats her. And I think that's important too, right? You have to make the marriage a focus so the kids learn model from what you're doing.
Right.
Yep, exactly. But that's, I mean, that's where we learned marriage to a degree, isn't it?
Right. Well, I don't know how much I learned from my parents, to be honest, but they're very old, you know, old style, right? The father worked and he didn't contribute to the house, and kind person. They didn't interact. They didn't have any, but it's a different world now, I think.
Well, but either we do what our parents did or we do the opposite of what they did. So there's still, we still learn from them. Yes. And that's our cue on, wait, I'm not doing that. And so we're still picking up from them. And that's where the more and more my kids, I mean, I know full well my kids are going to need therapy when they get older.
Of course.
Because
we all need a coach or therapy somewhere along the line.
Exactly, because they're human and they're in a fundamentally flawed household. I mean, just because we are as people, that's just we're flawed people. Yeah. So if when I acknowledge that fact, it takes a little pressure off me to have to be perfect. You know, I can model. I can model that, I make mistakes, and I can go to them, you know, and say, hey, you know, like the other day, my daughter, who's 9, you know, I hollered at her for something, and she reacted to me in a tone that just grates on me. But it clicked on me that, wait, I used the exact same tone earlier in the day with her. Yeah. So rather than me being mad at her, I was able to go to her and say, honey, I do not like that tone, but you know what? I know I've used it with you. And so let's work on that together with each other. Yeah. How's that? And she's, oh, that's cool. I'm sorry, Dad. And I'm like, cool, let's go, you know. But it's just this whole, I don't have to be perfect as a dad. I don't have to be perfect as a husband. I mean, that's where grace comes in. Right. And if I get that from people I live with, hopefully I can give it to myself too.
Great. Yeah. Exactly. Grace, unmerited favor, undeserved favor. Yep. I love that word. Yeah. No, there needs to be a lot of that in homes and in marriages, and some
marriages won't survive without it.
Well, that's certainly one of the reasons why we're doing this, is because there's a buzz amongst our friends, amongst our colleagues, amongst everybody around that there's something that's not right. There's a misfit, or the romantic notion that we talked about at the top of the show here. There's a vision that's implanted in us, in the movies, in books, in whatever, or people who are faking it. You know, like people go, oh, our marriage is great, and then they shut the door and it isn't.
The Facebook marriage.
Yes. Yeah. The Facebook. Right. So there's all this stuff that we're coming up against, and when we unpack it and we become real and extend grace or unmerited favor to say, yeah, I really, really align myself and enjoy what you're talking about, that the relationship works on us, and it's not there to pay off. It's there as like an oven or a curing machine or a wine cask or whatever, that we're going into it.
No, I get it. The actual phrase, the actual phrase, this is from Dr. Schnarr. He's got this trademark, so I got to give him credit. Okay. But he calls marriage a crucible. And what a crucible is whatever goes in it, you know, you turn the heat up, and what you pull out of it is more pure and refined. And I think that if you look at marriage through that lens, that's exactly what it is. Right. I mean, I'm a better person because of the marriage I have with my wife. Right. And it's nothing that we do or don't do. It's just because I live with another human being in close proximity. Right. And so I have to be better, or she's going to leave because she would have good judgment. You know, if I was just a slob, kind of, hey, I don't care, anything goes, it's always got to be my way. Well, why would anybody put up with that? Yeah. You know, I'm going to end up alone. And so I have to confront those things because I live with somebody else.
Yeah. Right.
Well, I have to tell you, Corey, this has been fantastic talking with you. We're pretty much out of time at this point. Do you have any last minute, couple of bullet points you want to share with us? Any ideas for that our viewers and listeners
could we implement today to kind of really
okay.
give us a boost in our relationships today?
Yeah. Let me just kind of build off of something that was mentioned that helps dispel the myth of, marriage is happily ever after. The way I play that out is I think most people have this idea going into marriage is that, we're going to have moonlit walks on the beach, and we're going to make love every morning with birds singing and the wind slowly coming in. That happened in my house this morning. Not even close. It's scrambling around getting kids out the door, and it's just life. So one of the things I would hope couples pick up, or moms or anybody, just humans pick up from this, is that when I look at my relationship as it's working on me, and when there's problems, I have yet to encounter a couple in my office or online that has described to me what's going on, where I've not been able to reply back, okay, what else? Because what you're talking about is normal. That's what's going to happen in marriage. There's going to be hard times. There's nothing broken if you got problems in marriage. That's what marriage is designed to do. It's going to have hard seasons. It's going to have times that are really rough. And if I change what I do in it and how I view it, I change it. Because too often, if I have trouble in my life, it's easier to say it's my wife's fault than it is mine. So that's what lots of couples. So you get that whole scenario of we need to go see somebody so they can fix you. Not me, because you're the problem. You're the one that you're never home. You're never what. Well, maybe I'm not much fun to be with, and they have really good judgment and realize, why would I come home to that? Why do I? So it's just kind of, if I can have some honest assessment of myself and the best in me rise up to acknowledge that, I change everything. Because now all of a sudden I realize, wait, okay, what if there's nothing wrong? What if I am contributing to this? And what if I start handling myself better? I get the benefit of that, let alone everybody else in my household.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. That's awesome. So Corey, we'd love to hear what's your next project going on. What are the things that you want to make sure that people know about you and where they can find you, and anything? I think you got a marriage 911.
Yeah, I have Married Life 911 as a course that's kind of the flagship course for Simple Marriage, and it's designed for the couples that have just kind of reached the monotonous, boring stage of married life, where specifically it's designed for that couple where one or both have heard or said, I love you, but I'm not in love with you anymore. And so it's you've hit roommate status, and it's just an 8-week systematic process of dealing with marriage in a better way.
And it's online.
It's all online. You can take it from anywhere you are at your own pace. You get support from me all the way through it. And then the next big project is that's actually being turned into a book. So
great, good.
I'm making all of that into a different kind of a work and try to get it a little bit of a broader reach.
Great. That's great. So you're at simplemarriage.net.
Yes.
And we didn't get to talk about Crazy Sexy Marriage Radio.
Sexy Marriage Radio?
Yeah.
We'll have to do that another time.
Yeah.
I will always talk about that. That's great. I love Sexy Marriage Radio. Has been so much fun to do.
Good. You have a co-host on that with you, right?
Yeah, Shannon Etheridge is my co-host, and we've been doing this she and I have been co-hosting for a year, but Sexy Marriage Radio has been around for 3 years.
Yeah, great. Okay, good.
All right, we'll have to have you come back and talk a little bit about that too.
Yeah.
Anytime. That'd be fun.
Good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's been
Absolutely.
great. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Mighty Married Moms. Tune in twice a week on Mondays and Thursdays to meet fascinating and inspiring guests who will help you create the life you've always wanted.
You can find these episodes and special gifts just for you at mightymarriedmoms.com, as well as a link to our Facebook community,
where we continue the conversation around the kitchen table. Please also help share the love by leaving a review on iTunes. We'll see you next time.